Hey, it's Adams here on behalf of Apex Trader Funding, and I'm back with Trader Nick, repeated paid funded trader with Apex Trader Funding. So Nick, first and foremost, congratulations, not just on getting paid, but on getting paid consistently. Well, first and foremost, thanks for hanging out with me today, man. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
So is this just the second payout, or is this really the second opportunity we've had to chat?
Yeah, this is the second opportunity that we've had to chat. I've had multiple payouts. I'm grateful and blessed to have found Apex.
Awesome. So outside of the world of being a funded trader and operating in that world, just a quick recap. I mean, what's your trading journey? Just real quick, kind of recap for us from last time. What the trading journey's been like for you? How long you been at it? How long did it take you to kind of get to a profitable level, etc.?
Yeah, my trading journey. I've been going at it for about 3 years now. Started with small caps, moved to options, and a buddy of mine talked me into jumping into futures, and they recommended Apex. And it took me some time to get to the rhythm, to understand how everything moved. Now that I'm here, I'm not looking back.
Was there a trigger moment for you where you're like, okay, I remember this was the moment where things just sort of clicked and my results started to shift?
Once I stopped chasing my PNL, when I was just focusing on the fundamentals of trading, that's when it really clicked, going back, doing some back testing. That really helped me.
And I can absolutely relate with that. I was actually just having a conversation kind of about this morning, and I struggled with the same thing. I always had this goal, and the goal was surrounding, either hitting, getting my first payout or eval pass or whatever the case may be along that journey. And ultimately, what got me past that was when I stopped thinking about that as the end goal, and the goal really being trading clean is what I've always called it. So having a good entry, having good risk management, doing all the things that I know I'm supposed to do, but that I neglect and quite frankly have problems with when I actually have a goal. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Having a game plan going into the trade, always having, hard stops and, taking profit once you're in profit. I think that's really the route to go.
Right.
And, just understanding you're going to have bad trades here and there. Right. You're going to make mistakes and jump the gun and, just learn from that. Don't go immediately back into a trade once you take a loss.
Sure.
Sit back, analyze it, and see where you made the mistake.
Well, I think that's phenomenal advice. And so in the spirit of taking clean trades, right? What does that actually mean to you? I mean, do you have a set of rules that you go by, between your own rules, between Apex rules and, consistency and managing yourself? How does that actually look for you?
I do have a set of my own rules when to take a trade, what I'm looking for as far as setups go. I really like using EMAs. I have the 9 and 20 on my chart. I look at the 2 and 5 minute chart mainly to take my trades off of. Beginning of the day, I go through, I look at the daily chart, I make my trades down on a piece of paper. That really helps. It's having something to write on and making those trend lines and having alerts too. Obviously, immediately not jumping in the trade.
Right.
You got to see it come down to a certain level or up to a certain level and watch price action at that point.
A lot of people don't necessarily like the idea of rules, and so far we've really just talked about your own rules. And quite frankly, I think anybody who's a trader knows that they have to have some set of criteria that can allow for some consistency. If you're just trading, as they say, discretionary, there's really no way to track how you're doing, because if you take a trade based on one piece of information one day and a completely different piece of information on another day, well, how do you know what your results really are? I mean, you could be getting lucky, you could be, one may be massively profitable and successful and the other may not, right? So having that set of rules, of course, is invaluable in terms of developing a level of consistency. I think the only way you can be consistent, at least for the first probably decade and a half, is really to have, a consistent set of rules from which to figure out where you stand. What about the other side of it? We know that Apex has some rules that you have to follow in order to basically use their money. So for you, how has that impacted the way that you trade and how you operate as a trader?
Maybe about months ago, Apex changed a few things and they implemented some different rules. And, I've got to tell you, talking with different communities, I heard people were upset about it, but you look at the big picture and the understanding that, it's a partnership that you're getting into. You kind of take it as you're working for an employer. But on top of that, with the rules, it helps you become more of a consistent trader. As long as you're sticking with them, regardless if you leave Apex, that's something that's going to stick with you. You're going to remember them. These windfalls that people come into, they're great for the time being, but I'll tell you, more than 90% of the time, you're going to go back to it and you're going to lose it all. So, I think the rules are a great thing.
Well, and I think that goes back to the idea of, is your goal a payout or a specific amount of money, or is it about being a better trader? And I think when that focus shifts, big things start to happen. I've talked to, probably 300 traders in the course of this process, and those are some of the things that I hear consistently is slow down, have a clear set of rules, don't chase, all the things that are very, very obvious. But what has really been the biggest thing that has cleaned up your results? Let me put it this way. Once you got that first payout, have you tweaked or adjusted anything, cleaned up anything in the course of your trading since that first payout that's helped you continue?
Absolutely, I have. After the first payout, I was still excited about it, and you just keep thinking about the other ones. And
right.
With me, I just focused on the money, and of course, I blew that account. And
right.
then coming back after that, it's just feeling that pain and learning from your mistakes. And again, the biggest thing that I have learned and what I try to do every day is just not chasing that PNL.
Right.
Just look for quality trades, be patient, be consistent. It pays off. If you're building that account $100 a day, that's better than these windfalls of making $1,000 a day and losing it all plus some the next day.
I think it helps to put things in perspective. $100 on an account is $100, and if you do that every day for a month, you got a couple $1,000, right? But when we start to look at the real opportunity, and again, this is not chasing the dollars, but putting things into perspective. If we can get traders very comfortable with making a small amount of money, but having the opportunity to spread that out over 10 or 20 accounts, a $100 day can really turn into a $2,000 day pretty quick instead of a $2,000 month. And for most people, this is like life-changing money. When we stop chasing the big numbers, that home run every single time, I think it starts to help build I'm in profit. I see a great opportunity to exit the trade and take my win. It may not be massive. It may not be, there may not be a comma in it, but that's okay. Because if we continue to do the same thing over and over consistently, $100 is not hard to hit if you've got a decent strategy. So that slow but sure build, of course, like I said, I know that's the obvious answer, but even when it's obvious, trading is an emotional business, and we don't necessarily always follow the obvious advice that we even give ourselves when we're outside of the charts. You've now showed some consistency, which means that not only is this a process that you're building, but you're also seeing an income out of it. What's the next phase for you? Where do you go from here?
I had a nice setback, as a lot of traders do, and I've just focused on a couple accounts that I have at this point. And it's one of these things, having 10 accounts is great, but if you're not trading consistently, you're not profitable, you can't do that. So at this point, I've been pretty consistent. I'm looking to add some more accounts underneath my belt. And like you said, if you're trading with 5, 10, 15 accounts, those small amounts add up. So at that point, you're happy with, these base hits, and you're not swinging for a home run every time. And
I got to tell you, from a stress standpoint, looking for a couple $100 is a lot less stressful, than shooting for that. Like, I got to pass this in one day. One day to pass is not necessarily a bad thing, but for sure when you're in that PA status, that slow and steady always wins, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you hanging out, sharing some of your insights as you continue to grow and build. I know we'll have an opportunity to do this again. I look forward to hearing how your journey continues to progress, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a never-ending journey. There's never an I arrived moment. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I appreciate it, man. I guess we'll get a chance to probably chat maybe in a few more weeks.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking with me.